Hello, and welcome to your Neo-Piezoelectripuncture treatment. Now, this is a little different than the standard offering of piezoelectripuncture. Piezoelectripuncture was developed at the Green's Academy of Spirituality and Metaphysics, or GASM. But Neo-Piezoelectripuncture, little different. So let me grab our chart here and I'll show you why. So in piezoelectripuncture, we are working with acupoints, acupuncture points, whereas we are working with something called Marma points. And this is not a comprehensive chart by any means, but it gets some of the major points. So we have quite a few on the face. We have a lot on the anterior body, or the front of the body, the posterior body, and these go from the very top of your head all the way to your toes. So we have points like Pramadya, we have Nasamadya, we have Apanga, Chibuka, we have Janu, Indrabasti, quite a few different points to choose from. And we also will be doing something a little different with our instrument choice. So we will be using different kinds of reflex hammers for different properties, and we'll choose different crystals for the same reason. So let's go ahead and just put our chart right to the side here, and let's start, I think, with the Berliner hammer. So what kind of crystal do we want to use here? Thinking we don't have to be too picky because we can use multiple. So let's start with this agate here. This beautiful little piece of gray banded agate. I think that'll be excellent to start. So, piezoelectripuncture, balance the energies, and I think here, let's start right here. So we're going to do a tap, 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 just like that. Tap, 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 tap. Very gentle. And then we can go along the tops of the eyebrows. So Marma points are 1, 2, 3, part of Ayurveda, which is practiced primarily in India. It is an ancient Indian traditional medicine system. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, we'll go at the corners of the eyes here. And right below the eyes. One, two, three. So Marma points are different in that they're not tied to meridians. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like traditional Chinese medicine, acupressure points or acupuncture points, which are tied to meridians, right at the tip of the nose here. Good, and right at the chin here. Instead, they are tied to energy pathways called nadis. Good. Now we're going to go right at the clavicles here. Good. 1. Oh, 5. There we are. 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, Marma points are vital energy points that are formed when different parts of the body meet or intersect, like muscles, bones, and blood vessels. We're going to go right the side of the deltoid here. And they are used to, of course, help clear energy blockages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But also to facilitate the flow of something called prana, or a life force in Ayurveda, as well as work on physical health issues. If I could just see your lower arms here. Good, right here. 5, 6, 8, 9. And then there are 2 points here. Marma point stimulation is used for pain relief and increasing energy and promoting general health and vitality. Good. Now let's see. There are 3 points on the wrists that I want to do with this agate. So we'll have a point here, here, and here. So if I could just see your wrists, we'll do 3 taps each. 1, 2, 3. Good, and the other side. Wonderful. So I'm actually going to switch out our agate for something else. Let's see. Maybe a bit of carnelian here. That's a good one for the sacral chakra, the root chakra, and general vitality. So we can do some different leg points. There are 3 on the thighs, 1 on the upper, 1 in the middle, and 1 on the knee. So we have up here, we have the Irvi points. 5, 6. The Ani points. And then the Janu point. We'll get 6 taps each here. And then the Janu. And then let's see, maybe, so Indrapasti is on the posterior side, but we've got a few on the feet. So let's do the one right below the big toe, in between the crease of the big toe and the second toe here. And then if I could just have you flip around, and let's see, maybe Vidhuda. We could get the Tamba points, maybe. Could do a few. Let's just see how it goes. We don't have to hit every point in this round. That's what we want to do in subsequent rounds. Vary it up a little bit. So right behind the ears here, we have a point. Good, and then why don't we do, I want to do right at the top of the trapezius here on either side. Good. And then between the shoulder blades. 6, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then, yeah, my knee tamba points. So right along the hips here. Why don't we go ahead and switch out our hammer here? So we used our Berliner. Now I think we'll go for the Taylor or tomahawk hammer. And we'll stay with the carnelian for a bit. So let's see, we've got the Irvi, Ani, Janu points, and Indrapasti. We can do that. So these are going to be on the back of the leg, it's going to be in the same positions that I did before, just on the back, except for Indurabhasti, which will be on the calf muscle, okay? All right. Six. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here's a question for you. 3, 4, 6, and then Indurabhasti. Have you ever been to or seen a prairie before? Yeah, I know, what a question. Well, so prairies are an extraordinarily cool little ecosystem. So the word prairie actually comes from French, and it means meadow. It's a North American phenomenon. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the prairie covers the middle of the U.S. It goes from Texas all the way up into Canada. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it is just so incredibly beautiful. If you've never been there, highly recommend it. So let's do some points on the back of your foot. We've got 1 on the tendon and 2 right at the sides. So there are 3 types of prairie. You have short grass prairie on the west side. You have mixed grass prairie in the middle. And then you have tallgrass prairie on the east side. And the prairie is a show all year round. Especially in the summertime, you've got fluffy, fuzzy, purple liatris. You have sunny yellow coreopsis. You have sunflowers. You have purple coneflower. You have retibita, which is sometimes called yellow coneflower or gray-headed coneflower. It's like a skinny yellow coneflower. You have pink and orange milkweed. And should we come up here? Yeah, I think so. We can do our sacral points here. You have asters. And you have one of my favorites, which is these powder pink little puffball flowers called bergamot, which is the wild version of bee balm. They're part of the mint family, so they smell like oregano. And you have wild phlox, and you have rudbeckia or black-eyed Susans. We're going to do 2 points right by the hips. But that's not all. You don't have just flowers. It's primarily a grassland, and there really aren't any trees. You might have some oak savanna where there are some oaks. But the grass is a show on its own, especially in the fall. You have some of the most recognizable grasses without their seed heads, which is little blue stem and big blue stem. You have Indian grass, switchgrass, side oats grama, prairie drop seed, which is my personal favorite because it smells so fresh when its seed heads come on. Very fresh. Let's go ahead and move from the carnelian and grab something else. And especially in the fall, the prairie lights up with goldenrod. So everything is super bright with sunny yellow goldenrod. A lot of those flowers could be described as sunny. Let's see. How about a jade? We could, let's see, this one's a bit rounded, but I think maybe we can use the little corner here. I like the thought of jade. And then we've done our hip points. I think we should do the encephalica points that are right in the scapula area. So the prairie has quite a bit of diversity, if you couldn't tell from the plant diversity there. It's an extremely diverse ecosystem, one of the most diverse if you don't count like the rainforests. And then we could do our 3 points up the neck. I think that'll be good. So the prairie is at least 8,000 years old. And at one point, or I guess really for several thousand years, the state of Iowa was 85% covered in tallgrass prairie. Now less than 1/10 remains. You can find it in places like on the side of the road, in old cemeteries, on bluffs, in areas that were just too rough to plow. And the demise of the prairie was set in stone in 1833 when a man by the name of John Deere invents the steel plow. Let's see, I'm going to have you go ahead and just flip back. So the farmland here is all black soil, or at least it was. Because of the prairie, it creates some of the most fertile soil in the entire world. And let's see, let's go ahead and work our way down again. But there was a consequence that people didn't probably think about, which is that the prairie holds everything together. The roots can grow up to 15 feet deep. So it creates this concrete-like soil matrix. And when the prairie was gone and you add in some drought, you create the Dust Bowl, where all of that untethered earth ends up, let's go along the nose here, so we'll go between the eyebrows. All that untethered dirt ends up creating these dirt and dust storms. And another thing that unfortunately vanished with the prairies are bison. bison are North America's largest animal. They are a type of bovine, a cow type animal, except they're giant. You had bison and you had elk. Let's go ahead and come right in here again. We can definitely repeat some points. But the bison in particular, it was a targeted effort by the U.S. to eliminate the Native Americans who used the bison for food, for material, and they're very spiritually close to the bison as well. Let's see, we can do... Let's go ahead. There's 3 points right in here, and we'll get those right here on the chest. And by the 1870s, there were no more bison in Iowa. And actually, at one point, there were only less than 600 left. But today, there are about 500,000 bison. Good. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Luckily, the bison and sometimes the elk too are being reintroduced to prairie restorations. I know in Iowa, one of the bigger ones, the more famous ones, is called the Neil Smith National Wildlife Refuge, of which they have lots of prairie and lots of bison and lots of elk. Very cool. And I think I read somewhere that let's do this on the arm here, that the Meskwaki settlement by Tama of the Sauk and the Meskwaki people, that they may have some bison as well. 5, 6, 8, 9, and then I did those two. Let's go right above the crease of the elbow, and then we'll go in the middle of the forearm. Okay, right here. Now, the bison are particularly important to the prairie because when they graze, they love grasses, as opposed to cattle, which prefer flowers. And by leaving the flowers, they increase genetic diversity in the flowers. And by grazing the grasses, they prune the tops of them, which encourages the grasses to grow the roots deeper into the soil. And any dead material left is then tinder for fire, because prairies are managed by fire, both naturally and with human interaction. They also like to wallow in the ground, so like pigs like to roll around in mud. Bison like to do the same thing, and because they're so big, they create these divots in the soil, and then when it rains, it fills with water and creates little ponds for other animals to be able to drink water. If I could see your hand here, got a few points here. Yeah. Okay, so I just see this one hand, palm up. There we go. 7, 8, 9. Good. And then right in here. So, when we talk about prairie restoration, we should also be talking about reintroducing bison and elk as well. And then right here. Now, the prairie is an incredibly important ecosystem. It is specifically adapted to extreme climates. And what I mean by that is you don't think about it, but the Midwest, we can get temperatures that are down to -40, which is the same in both Fahrenheit and Celsius. And it can go all the way up to 120, which is a 160-degree difference. And not only that, in a given week, you can have 100 degrees change. You can have one day where it is like 70 degrees and then it'll be like -30. That's not out of the realm of possibility. That's why in Iowa we say if you don't like the weather, just wait. If I could have you flip over your hands. Good. So they're adapted to these very extreme climates. They're very drought resistant, which is excellent because Iowa's really struggling with drought right now. Not as bad as it's been, but not great. Because of those roots being 15 feet down, they can access groundwater. And on this side. And because of all those roots, they can filter out pollutants and prevent runoff. I think I read somewhere that 1 acre of healthy prairie can absorb 7 inches of rainwater with no runoff. So there's very little erosion as well. Prairie is an excellent carbon storage as well. And it's also the home of a lot of animals and more specifically a lot of pollinators. So let's go ahead and we'll do the upper thigh here. 4, 5, 6. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, as I said before, the prairie is managed by fire. Before humans, it was managed by lightning fires. And then Native Americans ended up figuring out that the vitality of the prairie and what it provided for the animals that lived in it, especially the bison, was so much greater when it would periodically be cleared by fire. Because most of the plants are actually the root systems. So fire comes and clears it out. It eliminates trees, it eliminates weeds, and then you get new fresh shoots. Let's go ahead and just switch to the Dudgeon hammer. Put our Berliner and our Taylor hammers there. And then we'll do, there's 2 points on the sides of the ankles that we haven't done yet on the anterior side. So we'll do that here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So prairie is something that really is just overall something that's really important to bring back. They tend to manage themselves. They're great for the sides of the road, places that aren't really planted, obviously rough spots that you can't really plant anything otherwise. And then, let's see. I'll go ahead and have you turn around one more time and work back up. So let's go ahead and start with Indopasti. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Something interesting about buffalo or bison conservation, also called buffalo, though they're not true buffalo. Bison conservation is that there aren't actually many true bison left. What I mean by that is that people started breeding bison with cattle when they found out that they could. And that gene mix is not great. They're only partially compatible, and a hybrid would be called a beefalo. But of the 500,000 bison that there are very few that don't have cattle genes. So, because of that and the population bottleneck, this is a species that takes a lot of care and attention to increase genetic diversity while minimizing any cattle genes. And we'll go at the hips here. But there are ongoing efforts all over the country to restore the bison, because at one point they were literally everywhere. And funnily enough, I mean, they're big. They're also very fast. They can get up to, I think, 35 miles per hour. They're fairly lazy and slow, but if you aggravate them, they are not lazy and slow. Good, I'm doing right alongside the spine here. So if you ever get the chance to see a prairie, which I've been able to see a couple of original prairie before, then I would highly recommend it, because they are so beautiful and they're very much worth our time because they have so many benefits. They take a few years to get established, but they mind their own, and they're great for reintroducing animals that we had here for a very, very long time, that up until just very recently have now disappeared. Maybe not that one. Kind of thinking, there we are. Got some leopard jasper there. And I'll have you flip around one last time and we'll get some different points. So we have the center of the chin here. We have the chibuka points right here. Good, and then maybe the nasamadhya. The apanga. maybe Pragra. And we'll do the Shanka points as well. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we have Brahmadya. And Brahantara. 5, 6, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have the Simanta point right here. And then the Adipati. And then I just want to finish with your hands again. So if I could see your palms. Good. Okay, and then right here. And right here. Okay. And then on the other hand. Very active evening, isn't it? Weather's not too bad, and people are so very tired of winter. And if you could flip your hands over. Good. Here. On the other hand. And right here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we'll finish with the 3 points on each wrist. 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And there we have it. So we used 4 crystals and 3 hammers. We had this banded agate, the carnelian, jade, and a jasper. We used our Berliner hammer, our Taylor hammer, and finished off with the Degerin hammer. So a fairly comprehensive Neo-Piezoelectripuncture treatment, complete with lots of trains. I'd like to thank you so much for coming in to see me and having this Neo-Piezoelectripuncture treatment. I hope you have a whale of a day and a good rest of your night. Thank you.